So hello, everyone. Welcome back. As always, it's good to see you and see your names. We are now on day 3 for biology. And just to kind of recap and connect is we've been talking about evolution mostly for the past 2 days. And then actually just at the end of class yesterday, we had the really great comment that sort of is relating this to genetics as well. So that's what we'll talk about more today, some with genetics. And to start us off, we have, I think a lot of you know her, we have Val here with us, and she's going to tell us some about wellness and diabetes. Maybe that needs translated, but then I'm just going to hand it over.
정말 드실래시 으스로와 안에 정말 양체제지가 정신이 개성아서 진짜 수치야 되다 개성다 기념도 알아가서 벤지로 콜레데시자요레스 드니 아니 벤지가 진짜 타마 개성 진짜 타마텔라 양아서다 좋아지 동삼스가 강내다 지 릭제당 릭진데리 콜라야 좋아트샤요레스 니 디린 땅아서 진짜 좋대 릭지당 릭진데리 콜레데시 진짜 트리레스 아니 게라 그런 거 게라 디랑 쳐야돼 so the Natsuku Dintan Sach or Dintan, any genius circus, Chinigna Sachua, what do you want to say this?
Ashidele.
Ashidele.
So I love to see familiar faces, and I appreciate everybody being here. I know you're working hard learning about more science, and I hope that we're able to learn something today about many topics, and some of it will be related to what you've been talking about already.
아니 참아 제지 고 정스티는 가틀레티 무심바 마부통야 드스페 고 정스로 아니 다티랑 아소게 양 조시 가시지가 넘진 두 가시지가 넘진 되게 연스 넘진 티바데 니 지지나 치수가 단다 버다 양 지가 정용화 단 티용화게 조시드로 잉그레스.
So it is an honor to be here, and I really appreciate you all, your attention and your time. I also wanted to send greetings from some people that you may know, Jacob Schreckenast and Kristen Frenzel and some other people who've taught you over the years. They send their greetings and hope you're all well and safe and happy.
Gela tanta gela gelero ngoma jinda trinyoni gi gela yorwa tinda amang pochki chechula ane samde tashidere shudus.
Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and going to start talking about some of this material that we've come here to learn about. And I'm going to share my screen in this way because I might be writing some things, because I'm going to ask you for some input, because not only do I want for you to learn something from me, I want to learn some things from you. So I'm going to use my screen this way, so this way I can write on my slides, and if we write any ideas down that are compelling, I can share those with you for the group to have in the future. So on the topic of today, the morning session, we're talking about, well, morning for me, we're talking about wellness and diabetes, and that is a big topic. So first, what I want to know from all of you, and if you want to break out into groups to do this, there are 2 questions I want to ask you to please answer. And no cheating by looking it up. I want to know from your own thinking, your own mind, and the minds of your colleagues, what is wellness? And what is the definition that you ascribe to wellness based on your training and experience? And how does one attain wellness? So these are big ideas. So anything that you can come up with, just a brainstorming session. If we want to go into a breakout session, that would be great.
Ani drug has genes, drug is yes, Tingala, and it within our cheese, Susu sometimes. You may not dela yellow Gokoton de Taya, Tatola Sechi, and cook it, digging on the Shana degree of Maris. That drug is a wellness that didn't say the Joshua that the patient doctor in Gisamgira. Didn't say the wellness said the couldn't take under which shagging best, couldn't decide the Chichu under better John the Chiju, don't you hope you at the town Susu Yaman she shot it on anything couldn't sharo cheese, right? And I thought Sena Bigamaris, Skindona Sena, Digamaris, Susu to sharo cheese, Timsene. Ropang Nankula to the Chichi Shannon the Goris, and it him say, and it under Denton said, Council Chilla Denton Joma and Bana Candas Jungre said, or Ticolayan to the Chirichis, to the teen quality to the Nornas.
So in your breakout sessions, we're only going to be there for just a few minutes. So you're going to have to write down the first thing that comes to your head, to your brain, and write it down real quick and share it with your friends. And then we'll report back, and each group will have somebody report back to us.
Then so Rukola Goshajan Stambalaya, Shirayomas, Kamakashimashimi, stick up Simbana, Tamposu, Samatan, the Kutungarichi Shagimbe, Tilam Salam, Triti Jelaya, Rukonan, Deshajab, Deshajamnu Jelaya, let's swing us some Yampton Stambalaya, and it's Hamatan Yamta, Nitrichi Kuketians.
Okay, so let's go to breakout sessions, if you don't mind putting us in there, and we will talk about that. Then we'll come back just a few minutes, okay? So think quickly.
Okay, they're
open.
I'm sorry we got kicked out of our room so quickly. We were starting to have a really good discussion. And Palyang Dorji was talking about something in our session. So if you would like to continue sharing that idea with the group, that would be fine. Maybe Sangpo can help translate.
Jison de Chas Tangi Tijel Henning as in Georgia for Jizorwa, the Kitchen Mason, and the method to smile and that's on Shana Sig.
Ooh, did we lose him?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll hopefully cover your ideas while we're talking as a big group. So if someone from any group would like to raise their hand or start giving us what they came up with for definitions of wellness and how to acquire wellness.
Tane Ruka chicken on a Talangoni, Takakan chicken. They don't say it's any shagging base. They don't say the Tovia kind of stibu race or the college is not does.
Go ahead, Calden.
Yeah, good day.
Our group, our group, we discussed the definition of wellness as defined to the maintain balanced in our body, in our emotion and mind. That is the definitions.
Great. Balance, wellness, body, and mind. Yes, absolutely.
So then so Kadai Banakusuge Matsuge Litan Sentang any something you watch or Samyang or what to do some and it's Tanyum on the actually yes, then Tong said.
And what do we mean by balance? What are the things that you do? What are the behaviors you perform to achieve this balance? Just generally speaking.
That you Tanyum Tayana Tunyam la de say Tinadochi la Yachungi Kanadochi caption the US, that Matsugasha Tenton Likandochi Jibana, Tiumala Karina US.
Or physically, I mean that when we call disease, our body will remain unbalanced because all the inside 4 elements was disturbed and imbalanced. So our body remained balanced. That there is no disease and illness outside. Same as our mind is disturbed, that is imbalanced. Once we are too much, too extremes of, too happy and too sad, and all these are extremes. Once you remain on that one, it is disturbed, certainly, and that you become some kind of imbalanced.
Good points. Very good points. Does anyone have anything to add to these good points?
Tunyam say the curry kualango system, but Lula imbana Lula not some epago tunyam, some imbana, some laya cursugreta, Kangita, Samgela sopa mepig tunyam dash or what in the Chikualangius, the Tigalaya, and it's a Kasapchi and OUS.
Just delay. I'm representing our group. I want to add on that. Over here, when we discuss about wellness of mind, we also had come up with a, parallel definition of having satisfaction. If you're satisfied, your mind is happy, and if you're happy, you are well, you're fit, and you're said to be being well. So satisfaction and happiness is also the definition of well-being mind.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's
And
great.
the Sankam get the town said they got like Dopatsmia Segura, Choshichi Segura, and Dopatsmia Choshichi Delaya, something used to get the Choshichi and Dopatsm by Bina, and the Karichigres and some Tichipuchungres, some Tichipuchung by Bina, and some get the town said the Yachila Gunzichis.
Great. And a couple of other ideas from other groups, and then we'll move on and put all this together.
Nijenda Sorochis, because Endani, this is IOS and taking like Kanaji, Kanaji Chigane, Tamatangasu Dodos to us.
Yeah. And that's number. Madam, in our case, we define wellness as equilibrium in physical, mental, and social well-being.
Great. Social. Ooh.
And the Kusu in Bana did it, Tangatsugli, Samgalaya, Chitsu dig it in Tantia, Shagis.
So how do we achieve these balances, these satisfaction, social, physical, mental well-being? How do we do this?
Then the Tobella one, the touch Tobella, Sentan, that Luton, Sentan, Chitsuki, Denton the Tobella, and Atsugi, Lika, Kanadochis, Tabdo, Kanadochis, Tangur is the Tobella.
Physical, I believe, balance diet. Mental, I think through meditation.
What did you say for physical? Can you repeat that?
Physical, balance diet food.
I can't write.
Exercise, training.
We can achieve this. Through the. We can achieve this satisfaction through the outcome of the self-centered attitude. Sacrifice the self-centered attitude.
Yeah. So substandard attitude, make sure that is addressed. Absolutely. So we have someone in the chat. Let's see what it says in the chat. Poor diet, mind training. Yes, poor diet, yes, mind training.
Proper diet.
Yes, proper diet. Yes, proper diet. Proper.
And also exercise.
Exercise.
Yeah, the physical, wellness we can get from exercise and taking good nutrition.
Yes, absolutely.
And following to your doctor's advice.
Yes. Absolutely.
And also having a proper sleep, as we're discussing a group well, doctor.
Yes. Can you repeat that last one?
Proper sleep.
Sleep.
Proper sleep.
Say it again.
Yes. Recently we learned we learned that the sleep actually affects our emotional status.
Yes. Say it again and again and again. I'm being a little sarcastic, but absolutely. So all of these ways are a good start for attaining wellness. And something that that you talked about was mindset and attitude and managing the extremes of attitude, very important as well.
당이 지금 처음에 너도 답디치 시기에 와도 처음에 지금 처음에 더 배치하다 고사요 지와 아니 가서 리서치하고 당 스지하고 대한다고 당 아니 지금 데려도 지금 세미바이나 아니 단당 가지고 검자가다고 당 아니 단다게 정보성에 대한 니크한다고 당하러 아니 티 현대인 바이나 가지고다 다 데려도 마부여라 데다가 나는다 주 단다게라 성에 대가서나 지금 가족의 다 72대 지금 왔다 니기다 니니랄 호에기 70 마인바티 성코레 두냠질라니아 지금 와 어떻게 좀 자기요레스.
This is great. And also we talked about social well-being. I think some people might not think about that too much, but after the pandemic across the world, I think a lot more people are thinking about positive attitude, sleep, and social aspects of well-being more than they have before.
단단들에 가서 지속된 통세에 대해서 지금 시작송아 된스탄발에 뭐만 반나 시치는 미망고치 대강 삼로야 그거 말했음 반나 단단들라 내염디 중알라 텐데 내가 수치가 삼룬 대시디하고 진지야당 아니야고 크야당 섭벌도 미기 바르겐 레와스고라다 지속된 당시고로와 대딱 개천부인 바디 섭벌도 지속된 당대 개천부인 바디 또고요레스.
A lot of times when in the Western world, when we go for our physicals and the doctor tells us you need to eat better, a balanced diet, you need to get more exercise, and you need to sleep and not smoke and not drink a lot of alcohol. That's all we focus on.
단 내셔는 바나고 멤버라 땡그르스탄 발라 카치그레스탄 발 루세치 구군도 사마야고 사구도 참모부터 말에 타모부터 대요 말에 스테네데 시작하면 이나도 데시자고레스 테네데 시장스탄 발라야 코가 주디 아무드사 주디 가샤고레스 스탄발라가 주 링캄게 데탄테 차고레스.
But all of these aspects are essential, not just diet and exercise and smoking. All of these aspects are essential for wellness. And so one of the slides I had included in your slide set, sorry, let me, my mouse is not working very well, I'm sorry. Share screen. One of the slides I have in here talks about the many ways that we can achieve wellness. These are the various aspects of wellness that people talk about. There are many different definitions, but how do we achieve that? That is something that is elusive, because these are a lot of things to think about, and these are a lot of things to try to incorporate into our well-being.
대단한 속에 dental system 발라 dental게 남바다 아마부요레스 단가 수주쿠자 마임바데 참말에 두노치고 계침부레스 단단 딘스탄 발라야 거기 속에 dental게다 거기 남바 등식으로다 단가 속에 지금 그런 게 자신을 맞서는데 또 마부요레스 단데다 참마가라야 아니 지금 두노치고 된대요레스.
So to try to get people to have awareness of these various aspects, there are various graphics that are used. There's one here on the right on the slide, and there's another here. It's called the wellness wheel, to try to help us remember all the various aspects of wellness and try to attain them.
당가 저거 덴탕사에 지금 영화기 체드스거라다 덴탕 영화기 체드다 덴탕사에 된 시장스탄 발라야 덴탕기 땅 무ton 남바ton 차시다 연로세나 진람다 망부치라야 구셔잡지 샤요레스와다 디스탄 발라야 데이터 참망아 줄라야 원순도 보고 차액 체드다 당가서 딱 버기 강라 버지 강라 비지 강라도 스타인 보도와 디스탄 발라야 데이터 가는 거 카스오 강니 답디오 건데 시작기요레스.
But around the world, various aspects of wellness are focused on in various ways. But some of the things in order to attain wellness, some of the things that people do, some of those are listed here. And this is from this Global Wellness Institute website I found, which I thought was fairly informative. So this is a small list of things that you might be familiar with.
that data set la ya chitang chi ko lan tan tan cha shi yi tan tan chi ro ta yang ko manda yo re cha shi yi bai na yang ko ge cha shi yu ju ta linkhang ba data system ba la yang te la yang de shi ja ta yang ko chi chok tang region ta manda la ten de tan de shi ja ta yang this manda yang go wa ta tan da de la ya ko ta di zamlingi dentangi talhan society to dig tasikon lamba instant dig na la ya ko na ta dentan la bepa che tablen chima sona mampu chindus ngutur chi chas.
So you may be familiar with some of these, and some, around the world, I don't know that everybody is familiar with all of these aspects of ways to pursue wellness, but something that has happened in recent times in the Western world is to learn about other ways from other cultures of how people pursue wellness and to try to incorporate it into Western medicine.
Tanda 지금 gelage samse imbana ching di chama ha kunji tena ta peje khapore samgo dos imbana chechung dos ta ba na dena le chechu kana kansan chi jingmu shinye chi goto gonyonya tönyonya nyamyo yuchi tena yoga reswa dena onse da khapor ta tande ki chala imbana chi napshok ki chani pa ta nashok chi chuna na karachi go resena chi chechu jenda ta jakka jenda na la ya di thang sa ti ga la ya ne 슈칸다스 자고도 그쪽에 냠는 제디 간다로도 그쪽에 탑링 간다로 땡게 도티 간라야 냠시 제디 간들이 심직지 되다 네티 추키용되데 아니 냅식 그쪽에 지츠고나네다 초땡기 락란 치어와 디나틀이 아니 지금 냠시 지데다 냠디 지데다 아니 락란들기 요레스.
So one thing I wanted to ask all of you is, were you aware of all of those aspects of maintaining wellness, or just some of them? So raise your hand or shout out if you were aware of all of those aspects.
And the Padilla Mantaja Chichidoa, did some Hakuni Yoba in Bana, Kijaro Chis, Lapayara Chano Chisa.
Okay, so raise your hand if you knew of some of them.
Or then on a Kashi Kunyo and Lapayara Chano Chisa.
Good. Well, that's good. That's to be expected, that most of us would only know some of those. And so here's one of the things I wanted to ask you all about, and it turns into a big scientific study. Now, we're here learning science, so this is what I want you all to do, is I want you to do some science. And it's going to tie into diabetes in a minute, I promise. I don't know if that's actually, that's not really what I meant. Not turn into diabetes, but anyway, talk about diabetes. So what I want to know is there a way for us to become aware of all these various aspects of pursuing wellness and knowing about the methods that achieve wellness for everybody? So this is a loaded question. Yeah, sorry.
That's a big question. That's what me 참하게 제대로와 아니 딘탕 세트게 그런 거 넘버 참마 하고 넘어서 되게 답시 참마 하고 해지고 왔대 되게 답시 참마 하고 했는데도 지금 연구를 했어.
연구래.
No.
참말로 그러다 미 참 all people. 미
연구래. No.
Most of them say no.
No, yeah, that's and it's very difficult, and there are many reasons for that. Some of them are our own cultural biases, and some of it is communication. But one thing I think that will help, maybe not, I don't know, we'll have to discuss this and maybe think about this some more, is having evidence to show that these things help and don't harm people. And so this leads to the scientific part of all these various aspects of attaining wellness. So first we have to know what wellness is, which now we know. Second, we have to know what these various ways of attaining wellness are, and we have a list of those, and there are probably more. And then we have to know, do the various methods work, and what is the evidence for it?
tanda 가르쳐고서는 되게 뱅거에서 계좌 시험 담당 가서 참아 짓그레스 담발에 가보지고 가르치라 빠는 가서 소통 리중 거 삼르당 담만로 담 가시 원래 지고요 말 왔다 될라 가서 지초라 지초 수수가 리중 거 현실한테 됐던 지 초생게 나와 지금 거로 왔다 텐데 땡 원래지 마치기 되는 용 거레스 디스 담발아야 땅 가서 다 되게 니캅 될라야 맞출라야 지 탑란 담다 망보스도 가다 탑란 망보 요주 되게나네 땅 아주 데리 값을 가려운 거라는 체릭 사야 되게 자세 되는 거리스 체릭 되게 자세 되는 데다 맞추고 딱세지 심지지 되대 되게 난도 팽도 땅 아주 딘탕라 팽도 사게 방탁때 제대다네 방탁때 신지라 진데다 제 제라야 내가 주때 땡구요레스 다 때마이나 단 데이터 배치 담바이나 아주 딘탕라 팽도 사야 되다 단다당 아주 체릭 자세 되는 거리스 체릭 심지기 자세 되는 거리스.
And a lot of people's idea of evidence is different, but if we're taking this from a scientific perspective, we want to talk about scientific evidence to support these claims of what constitutes wellness. And so again, I'm going to share my screen and show you this, maybe I'll show you. This pyramid is showing you levels of evidence, and you can look at this later if you want, and how we evaluate the strength of evidence, or how good evidence is, if you want to be subjective about it, and the different ways that we can study various questions that we have in biology.
생릭 심지기 탑레라 때니 또 미가 방토텔 고고 요레스로 아티마 토페야 양아서 방토야 수수술라야 요르와디 스탐바 생릭 심지기 탑레라 때미가 방토테 요레스타 방토데 임바나 단단디 카레토 시투 지라 단단디 그레 딜라야 내가 주 생릭 심지기 탑레라 때니 데톤 톤샤주게 지가 타마기 방토 지거와 어때다라야 아니 간다스 용구 요레스 딜라야 심지 당 지가 ताको 20 지역이 지금 세 지거와 데이터가 름바 간다스 연구 거기가 름바데 될 땡기요레스.
So one of the goals of the Global Wellness Institute, and I think many of us might want to do this, is to bring the scientific community and global health practitioners together by examining various methods of attaining wellness and studying them so that we know how to apply them to help the most people.
Tanda delaya ngasuge zamlingi dentangal hansota ani ti nangshinge jeda mambuch ka mugi karchago resena ji chenri tangro chenri tang ani zamlongla yopegi tretengi ji lenne bayorwa tretengi thala lekachini kuchu nyamliche bala tene dete ani tanda delaya nyamlin chi mambuch toga nyamlin mambu detak ke ngasuge tretenla kandas pengudo saati chenri tang thumbi gane takshe shinji pantaganye ani thama delaya ani ngasuge ji zamlangi mi kam mama laya dinson chagi thalaya jingbe gwachi chagores.
So that's what I want you all to do. You're scientists now, so I want you to be able to take what you've learned today and what you've learned in the past and put it together and study this or any aspect of biology that you want and bring the evidence to the global community.
Tati nanshinge chechu tanda ta tsari lobjon chini ke tsari pa chaga yozong gelagi chechu lang teriwa chigi yos tsuga tanda chigo lobjon jang shaju chigoro lobjon jang shaju dezo pecho tang dete ane susu ge chigo ta pangtak tsaya da shinji chaya tang tena dawo chigi chil de tang tiki trimdi te ane zamling laya dus ten de tang zamlang laya pen thoya ge chigi lika drip guwa te laya teriwa chigi yos.
So I'm going to change gears a little here because we don't have much time left, but I want to get into the aspects of talking about what happens if wellness and health fail. And you've already described some states of being unwell when we were talking about wellness, so I'm going to skip that part. But the part I want us to think about for now and the future is when our methods or our ways of being and thinking and not sleeping and not eating properly induce wellness to fail, how do we restore health, and what are scientific ways to help educate, to help people restore health?
Tanda di kasi benar wang asu ke shawa cetang tali ka datang teta la teni de taro ta khach la teni de teng asu ke ani thoten ti nyamgu yorwa thoten ti nyamgu de thon ti nyamgu yorwa ti kanras nyamgu yore te la tse che ti je la ya ani kar sogre da 티 양증 아주게 덴통당 초된데 양증 양코레 절수지고 바이나 답은 간을 로직된 고레서 저걸 어떻게 갈라야 냠치지고 이랬어.
So one of the problems that I am keenly involved with in my research and in my family and in our society is thinking about the global problem of diabetes. Diabetes, what I want to know from you is, do you think it is a global pandemic, and what is it?
단다 게라 그런 것도 나 제사로다 미게나 초카나 나 초카치 거기 때는 게라기 시우도나 제사때 단다 진익사 그 진익나사 사이스도 어디 인스와 인스탄발라야 니 조아티 카렌스네 제주가 삼바임바나 아니 진익사 그디 아니 제시 근처 내염식으로 팬데믹 지르는데서 아니 디 진익사 쿠세나 카레레스.
So, does anybody know or have an idea about whether diabetes is a global pandemic? Does anybody, if you have an idea, just raise your hand if you think it is or have an idea it might be.
I think yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's a global pandemic.
Yes, I think so. We don't label it that way, but
yes.
I think so. And
yes,
and
because
please.
Yeah, most people when they get age in over 40, yeah, they have the diabetes.
But it is not infectious.
Ah. Okay, that's a good segue. Yes, so it affects millions of people around the world. In the United States, I have statistics on that. There are 330 million people, and about 100 million people either have diabetes, pre-diabetes, or have diabetes and don't know it. So 1/3 of the population.
단다에 말은 아주 진유사 그때 근처에 나면 지가래스나 식당 같은 아주 고란탄 나래스와 이마이나 아주 민티나 다고요레스나 다고요 말레스와 어두스제 단다 이게 다티나 오는 거 진센텔라 미 마부치라 나고요로다 아니라 이송아디나 미 마부치 나고레스 다 기실라 임바네 단다데 주코 내인다고 지레스 망폴란 기어다 임바이나 양군 그네지 말레스 그거요 말레스와 어디야 그게 네탄치 차고레스 단다 길라송알라 the Mambola Nayoris, Nepe Mambon Nadeoris, Pichashapana, Arila Miton Saya Sunjata Sunchuris, Tina Miss Saya Jas Laya, and then Nayopata, Yanati Nag and Kayopara, or Tinado and Nitanchi Chagoris, Taku Mitan Sunchak Chilaya, Jini Nayopat, Jinigas and Nayopata, Yana Nag and Kachi Chagoretis Tambalaya, Jimmy Puncho Mambuchila Nayoris.
I found one article from 2017 about diabetes mellitus in Tibetans in China, and it shows data from 2011 that 6.2% of the people have diabetes, and that's an increase of double from the last time it was measured in 2004, I think.
Wow.
And that Gelala Balaya Dichi Sakarsa Penangis Gorata Janosne Penangi Kapsubrita Pepa Gala Tashichi Shajugi, Jinji Nasachi Gorwa, and the Jinji Sakuga Nasachi Gorwa, Hotela Yatoshi Shajuti, Trantuti Karesena, Niston Chochulula, Tenjuchidua. Tati Ko I think Ngomatan Druba in Bainarwa. Ngomatan Durbaina, Ngoma Taxi Gorwa, Tigi Luti, Chitrambit Derba in Baina, Jachamas, Jacha, Dap Nigia Parshas.
So this is a worldwide problem, and it's getting worse over time. We may not be able to call it a pandemic because it is not viral. There are many different ways that we can have disease affect us. Some are genetic, some are epigenetic, some are viral or bacterial.
That the me Mampuchila, any Carsicole, Shuchen Teguyor is the Shuchen Teguyor, the Imbana Sudela, Kuncheg and Namian Silly Trugo Maris, then as soon native chapter in Bina Kashina did not direct to Chungorwa, Kashim Bananga to get an instant on Simbu Yorota or Titolaya, Tessin Titolat and Chungores.
But diabetes is a global problem, and it is a disease that may encompass all of these things. even viral. There might be a viral component to a form of diabetes.
You mean viral means virus or like?
Yes, yes.
단단가 속에 진이 사쿠요와 데라 지금 지치나 콜라 아니가 속에 년승기 거기 체취식으로 어떤 것들라 지치나 요기레스.
So I don't want you to be confused about how diabetes is caused, but there might be some aspect of type 1 diabetes that is influenced by a viral infection, a virus infection.
단다 데라야 아니 지금 지출라 원종 마태와 지금 제대로 단다 맞수고 진이사케리 땅포난게 양코가 딘센치라야 아니 맞수게 년승기 년카치 해봐이나 되게 양식신 돼야 된다 요레스.
So what is diabetes? What happens in diabetes?
진이사크 세나 가레스 다 진이사크 나바이나 가리 좀 그래서.
진이사근 나이나네 세죽 니바디 파 칼라사이드 세죽 니바디 파 인슐린 세티지디 까네 파 소소그 죽응어 겨투 마레스니 zuku 카르세오다 니도 냠도 그래서.
I cannot metabolize the nutritions and give nutritions to the body.
Okay, that's a good start. Good. What else? Decreased insulin. Yes. Can't break down sugar. I see in the chat. Yes. Deficiency.
And
or
also resistance to insulin or something like that.
And resistance to insulin. Good. Okay, so thank you for participating. This is good. There's many ideas here. There are many forms of diabetes. You all have mentioned two major forms. One is insulin is not released or insulin is not made in your body. And the other is resistance to insulin, even if it is there. So those are type 1 and type 2 respectively.
단다 데레제 속에 모토 지원하는 모토 배야 붙이 성스타다가 속에 진이사이클이 니어비나니 다른 청모토 지선 시가레스 스탄발은 속에 연주가 매치스고 인슐린 디즈군안에 주마트가 되는 진이사이클이 당포에 수군안에 주트고요 마레스타 아니바데가 인슐린 세데가레스는 속에 너지테 마르시 시즈니로와 어디 주트고요 마레스타 진이사이클이 니바데가를 바인바나 단다 인슐린 주트고 연주가 매치때 주트고요 레스나 임바이나 연주가 매치때라 양 복선택이요 레스.
And as I'm seeing in the chat and people have said, it's the inability to utilize nutrients that we take in, specifically glucose. A nutrient comes from carbohydrates, and we can't break them down. We can't take them into our cells to be broken down. So we can't get the glucose into our cells. And then our cells don't have a direct way of obtaining energy.
단다데라야 전통은 티샤스 얘데가라는 가속에 시축은이 주직은이 단다 글루너지요라 글루너지티 주시즈트고 말이티 주시즈 마트나 칼치고르스는 가속에 차풍수수수수 나라야 리카치야 코에게 니바디 코트치트고요 말이스.
So our body is essentially going to starve to death. That's not a good way to live. So how do we get this? How does this happen to us?
니타티 값을 가르치고 있었던 아주 지부들의 그 뉴마르크가네 더 독실도가 태두고 그랬어. 이스탄불은 딘다도가 니탄데 간다도 지정레스.
I'll give you one hint, and some of you may know this story already. I'll give you one hint. My father has diabetes. My brother has diabetes. My father's mother had diabetes. My father's brothers and sisters have had diabetes. And my cats had diabetes, and my parents' dogs had diabetes. So genetics, yes. So genetics is one thing, and then the cats and dogs, how did they get it?
단다 시가레 시스템을 gelage kenchichelen chonso atikalen nga so existant de waresra muimbana mugo pala ta pinja ta tiga pala ge yang pinja ta sama pala amala so pala shinji sakti yoresra istamba tiga so existant de yores ta nibade karesena ne gelana la ya karsa ta khitan simila yang ko tanda chinji sakti yores ta te karela tane chonres.
That's great. I'm seeing in the chat diet, genetics, genetically passed down, and environmental effects. All of you are correct.
Sama tatare shasro sama tanda ge tendong tsa da tdo wa chi res nyo de nga zu ge sichu ko la res im che nga zu ko khori tang ani suwa che tang ro sama res pe ya godus.
There's also probably the influence of activity levels and other environmental factors.
Tem sepe ani nga zu ge listia ge chi tsedo chi ro listia ge ta tsetela ralegre tem sepe ani khori ki chen da yo res.
And so the influence of all of these factors, along with the potential for a virus to kick off an autoimmune response, I'm going to put that in here so that everyone can, virus, autoimmune. So a virus attacks our body in some cases, and our immune system attacks the virus, but then the immune system mistakenly attacks the cells in our pancreas that make insulin, and that could contribute to some cases of type 1 diabetes.
Tanda virus de de ro da ke te nga su ge nyensin chi ge zu la ya and sta ka su de nyen ka tong ba na nyen ka tong de nga su zu ku par thap kar wa thap grace da ti kap de la kar chi grace na sam la ya nga su ge zu ku nang ge ta nang go ke tha phon te zung gu thom se grang gu thom me ani nga su ge sherma na yo chu ge insulin zu ni ge tha phon te yong ko pa dus chi ge tha phon te la ya go ni te da me per zu ni te da yo res ro this ta la ti kap se nga su ge ani And
then there's also some evidence that I put in the notes of some chemicals and some genes that have been identified that could contribute to diabetes, of potentially type 2 diabetes, or maybe other forms of diabetes. So I have a question in the chat. Does COVID-19 cause type 1 diabetes? It could contribute to it. It could worsen it if someone has type 1 diabetes. It could worsen type 2 diabetes. And there have been cases of patients who've gone into the hospital who didn't have diabetes before, but after COVID came out and had diabetes. So this could be an instance where a virus, our immune system responded to the virus, but then attacked our pancreas.
Tanda de la drugs to standanga sugi toyen ti kanerum ti chuguba taking a sugi chisakuti chegre chegma reswa is tambalaya tanda tida yanko kasugre ti chonji dos kashin bana tampotle chinisa kana same chuchi ina men tako ti tanda ge toyge nyerum chigoro toyna sati chongda ton tige jela yan ko chinisa kana ju tinda yon chong yo res kachila bana ti kapse tanda nyensin tegi nga suge sherman na yo pigi tapong la wata te insulin zuni ge tapong te la ya ta chi go sigoro ata ti la ya chi meper tang jung ni ton tina da uchi la tene dete ani nga suge chi sa ku tina chonga yores.
Okay, so a final couple points, because I know what is it, someone asked what is the difference between a pandemic and epidemic. Pandemic affects people globally, and an epidemic is usually confined to a region, like a country or a state.
Tandila yang asuge pandemic lana kunche na yen se shorata epidemic lana name document da tra do chichena ro tandage kunche name se ati kalana pandemic se ati kasu kunche name se ati kunna cha bas barata zamlang tam jakam mampu chila ya shuchen tre ya gi na sa chagores epidemic se ati ko ga name ti ko yang sani satok sigorata sani satok sani ngichin chila ya chichu ga name ti na ko res.
Okay, so now that we know diabetes is a problem globally, we know it affects everyone, and the cases are getting are increasing. We need to know how to prevent it, how to treat it, and how to tell people about it. So
tanda mana ngasuge chinyu sakuti jechi rangsan chengi kangi chi chayo pa haku yores mi mampola kangi chekyo pa haku yores ta tim bana ngasuge te kandas ta go yore te kandas go go yore ro ti ni ton te kandas go go yore ten mi sendala kandas deshi ja go yore sta.
So ways to study this include polling people and asking about various aspects of their lives, but we need to know before we get there, we need to know how do these various aspects of what we do in our lives, how does that affect our body to produce diabetes? Does it happen at the genetic level? Well, there's some evidence for that, and there's some of that in the notes.
Tachigar system balanga so ge mi mampo chilaya susu ge mitsi ge chua che tangi ji kanado ji ba de twat gu yores imai na ta twat kanchlang su ge tangpo de kare ha gu yores na ngasu ge chua che tangi ta ji mampo chigoro ta chinga su ge shawa dria ta chi che tang namjing ge komshi mampo chigoro de tangla tene de ane ngasu chini sakhu sa de kanado chi che go de ta kanado chen chi ge yores de ane tela ta gu yores ro de chine ngasu yang tangena sheba na shingi rigzi tanda o jutinda ingres.
So with type 1 diabetes, we know the cells that make insulin are killed off. So we know to treat, we can give insulin. But with type 2 diabetes, the story is a little more complicated, and it involves all the aspects we talked about. And so one of the things that could happen is our genes can be altered by the amount of methylation or aspects of turning on and turning off genes in our cells that may have to do with environmental factors.
Tadanda nga suge chinji saku ri tangpo de bana ko ge jetang de ha ko yo resra karchila bana ko nga su zupana ni insulin to zut ko marwa zut mestambala nga su zupana la insulin tetration de ko resta niba de bana ta te kap sim bana nga suge netang mampo chila ra le yo resta chite nga suge ya ko rigzila ya jiwa tanga chigora rigzila ya ko ge ta chechite la tisin jiwa tanga de ta ya tela tene de ko ge genius karsa insulin goya ge netan chigoro atela ya chig jinyo ta te ma prezo ge thapsi de ta yoris.
So if we know someone has type 2 diabetes, we can poll their behaviors and their experiences and see if maybe they have poor diet or are extremely stressed out, and maybe that's causing some hormonal fluctuations or methylation patterns that are not good for the DNA to be productive like the DNA should be, and that may be leading to diabetes. So we can correct those behaviors.
Tadanda nga su chinji sakari ni ba kasim bana nga su ge komshi tang ji shicho tanzi ji ora te ta la ya tse ji de tang tin na ne pi cha sha na sama ge se ju ya po ra ga me ba ta ya na kar su ge ta komshi nge ba tin do yo ba la ten de su ro da nga su ge zu pu nang ge ta menji tin da la ya chen te ba la ten de ta ne nga su ge DNA ta RNA ge ko rang go ngon ji sla ya ji ge chen te de ta nga su la chinji saku ge de do ju jong yo si ge chen yis yin si zang rwa dila ya nga suge koge tiga komshi tang shi cho te tola njawa tanga de tang yang ko jinji saku ge jina sa de jinchwa tanga ya ge tapshi tanga yores tela.
So right now I'm speaking in general terms, but my assignment for you that's in the notes is for you all to do some studies, some experiments. And we want to be ethical about experiments on people, but we're going to do some experiments not on, but with people. And hopefully you can do this over time. And what it says in the notes for you to do is to get a history or poll people and ask them about various aspects of their health: sleep, stress, diet, exercise, how much, what they're eating, and make a database and see if they have any symptoms that are typical of what people suffer with diabetes, which are easy to find out. We can talk about that if you want to. And then find out if there's an increase in incidence over time with people, or if there's a big incidence of diabetes in the people that you're talking to, and then see if there are ways that you can intervene by discussing with them ways to maybe change behaviors.
Tanda sinchina na chip tisha yores ta tanda dige PowerPoint ka gela tisha do ta tanda de kar sene chetsula ya leka chite yens leka te de kala na susu gi chi mi shendala mi shenda tanyam te nyamle gi gane ani tanda jinji sakta dewa yo chu gi chi de takshe shimji chi na ngai te res ti kala na mi la ya keche tri de ta mi te gi ani chwa ruchita samasa chita tilusti gi yume ta chi ora ta komshi te ta ani dus treat nu jela ya ko nga su yumi nang like de ta ani ko tanda dya te yang ko tanda chi su thong thong na mai ba chi jin rang pu gang la ro dus ti de ta la tene de ten ko chola ya 아니 지금 준비 사쿠게 나차 요쪽에 내떡이나 통구도에 통구면도에와 어디서 담발라야 어두 신지기 대단한 그 수수게 신지기 서미티가 나라야 rimjim로 갖고 칼레 티그나텔에 양 진짜 사카 나니티 만드 두고도 문두게 내땅텔라 따데땅 디나노지 요파이나 다 수수게 구수게 시조 텐땅땅 지제땅땅 지 검시 라소파 만부지거라 데터라 텐데데땅 아니 진짜 사카티 제기 요아이기 지다 똑반도 되는로 해바이나스 거라다 딘다게 니친로 탐바이나 다 텔라야 아니 진짜 사카가 나사티 진요아 땅야라 땡 고야라야 인터랙션 수거라다 고야라야 수수게 탑시 간도에 다이오리스.
So a question came up in the chat was if methylation can be induced by prolonged unhealthy lifestyle and stress, etc. And the answer to that is in the notes, there are some studies that show that actually low methylation is bad in this case. So low methylation of your DNA can lead to type 2 diabetes, and low methylation can be caused by stress, poor diet, and there are some indicators in there of what foods are good for preventing low methylation, a lot of double negatives. And so yes, we want to have healthy DNA, healthy lifestyle, so high methylation for maintaining health, for not having diabetes.
Tadadala methylation so ko DNA kan lai mithai sa ge chung chi orati jagi chi ta chungjur chi ge namba te la ya ani nga su chi samba sange chwa ro ta ani nam jing chwa ro se ti ge shishin ro te ge ma de sta ti imba na chitang ge ta ge lai de shi ba na ro nga su ge DNA te ku thampo go la ya kan lai mithai sa te ro ti mampo go yor methylation te high go yor is thwa go yor is ro imba na ta ke ti nywa yo pa na ti ge nga su la chun chi de ta ani chi sakuna sachigoro atin jonga exchange gi distance tambalaya ani chitang imbaina ani karsugre ta de jinni nasati manai gi cheto ngasu gi ta DNA imbaina DNA thampu system bala gala methylation ti thwa go yo distance tambalaya te thwa yo paina yo resta tila ya exchange ya tinga su gi ani karsugre chwa ro chata ani chi samngel ta chigoro atin ta exchange gi res.
And something else that is in the notes is that it's not just our own behavior that can affect our own health, but if we are to have children, that what we do can actually affect the methylation patterns of our offspring. So there's more and more evidence for that. So it's really important that we all become scientists and study these things and then inform globally, share what we know about the evidence that we have come up with. So that's your assignment.
Ade chisuge de stanga su imbana nga su ge chi choro zu tang su su ge samla tang samge ge ramba tang titala ten tang su zu kunona yo pe ge ta tanda ge metal changjur ti ge tela ya shu chen ten me se nga su tela ten tang ne ke ti su su la pu yo pa na pu ge la yang chen chi ge sta ti kana nga su zi ga ne ta chi ga ra junjir re mangpu ga la shu chen ten yo sta den stambala nga su ge chi chanru pa chi bi mu ga ne nga su tela ta shin ji chi de te ani de ge ne tang te ani chamala dus desha
And with that, I will say thank you very much. And I appreciate everyone's participation. If you have any further questions, feel free to email me, find me on Facebook. I'm on there all the time. My email I'll put in the chat. And I appreciate you hanging with me and putting up with my babbling.
Ani sama tuji ches zishino tuji ches ke de draw yo pai mana gelagi email address ti de pusha to no se to tela ya chi email kati to na digre tamra ya chi ngutep ga ne draw yo na kati na to na digre yes gela kati bana ya ko mutep to da Instagram ga ma yes.
So thank you.
Tuji che, thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, I just saw your picture pop up. So Val, thank you so much. That was amazing. I think it was a great journey of wellness to diabetes there. And now we have Ernest Ricks, who several of you also probably know, and we are really excited to hear about what you have to say for discovery and creation in science. So I'm going to just turn it over to you.
All right, awesome. That was awesome. I really appreciated the walk through diabetes. How's everybody doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing well. Dawa, my man. Awesome. All right, y'all. And so as we get into discovery and creation, it's very simple. It simply boils down to the scientific method. And so we'll talk about that a little bit today.
Tanda tiranga gelage decision tere doga nga suge discovery sernye tang certain jiati wata sernye tang sernye karichi kandasigre certain kandasigre se ti kolen decision tambala thamatela thusate nga su chemi ki thalwen se ti resti kalen decision yesti pe tab diu yores.
Awesome. It's really nice to see everybody. So let's start off with an activity. So Kelsey, I don't know who's gonna allow us to break off into groups.
Kelsey will do that.
Kelsey will be doing that for us.
Kelsey, are you there? Or Karma?
Yes. Yep. So I can do it. Do you know how long you want the breakout room to last for?
Yeah, it won't happen now. I'll just signal you when it's time to break out. Okay. So we'll do probably like 2 breakouts. First, we're gonna do some observation, look at something, right, and then see what's going on, and then we'll break out. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna share my screen here. Do I have that ability?
Karma. Yes, I think you have.
I think you do, yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right. Here we go. I just want us to observe what's going on here.
Tangbode karchi insenero tanda de la ngatsu tashi che mi ki tai insro dige chela ngatsu ani karsa rukho kose je de twitter chair do tanda de la ya put tarochis. Yes.
All right. So what are we noticing?
They are afraid.
The cat he's scared of cucumber or something.
So they are afraid. We noticed that, right? So we notice they're afraid. We notice that they run away. We notice that they jump, right? All right, cool. I want us to keep on going for a second, but I want us to dive a little deeper into what we're noticing and what we're observing, okay? So we know that they're afraid. That's what we know first off, right? That's very easy.
Da tanda de la ngasu kari tono chonson sena ko shena chiwa te shena tangan thong de tang ko treat to eta ani chi pa chi chonja ja chi chi yorwa de ngasu tono chonson as ta tanda ngasu tono chonja de kari chongre sena ko sheba de tono chonson as ta tanda ngasu tele ya chi kar su in sa ba chi tagins.
So let's pay attention to when they get afraid, when they jump, when they run, right? And when they notice.
Ta tanda de kapsa ngasu ke tanda ngasu kari tono chigins na ko sheba treba chomba sama ngasu haku yores ta teta kati chung durwa kusu tangpo kati haku do kati shegdo kati trego kati chungudo tege disotela ins. Yes.
And if you can, I want you to write down the things that you notice. The setup, I want you to write down the setup. I want you to write down the reactions.
Kete laki yobana tirochis ro tanda ko nitang tanda chiresha ani ko ge yaling kanado chitego do nitante mara tirochis.
All right, let's go through a few more. All right, so what are the cats normally doing before they notice the cucumber?
Cucumber te yopa hama ko ngola chitange kusu karichi dusa shmitizoge.
They are eating something. They are paying attention on the food or something.
Okay, so they're normally eating something, right?
Yes.
And only paid attention to something else. Are they facing the cucumber initially, or is their back turned?
cucumber
Back turn.
They're turned. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. What type of cats are we dealing with here?
The shimmy color.
Cats.
Maybe like adult, not like kittens, small kittens, or like big cat or adult.
So we're saying adults, so big cats?
Yeah. Or some are saying pet, like domesticated, not like wild cat.
So domesticated, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So it looks like they're eating, their backs are turned, they're domesticated cats, and they're adult cats. And we haven't seen any in young cats yet, right? Okay. All right, cool. So they're eating, their backs are turned. All right, now, when they see the cucumber, what is their normal response?
cucumber
Jumped.
They jump.
Yeah.
Try to run away from that.
They jump, run away from the cucumber.
Okay, so they jump, they run. Anything else they do?
Trying to look back again.
Observe
Okay.
again.
So they look back again, right?
Yes.
They hop.
All right, so here's what we have so far based on what we've looked at. We have domesticated cats who are generally eating, right? Looking at or distracted in some way, shape, or form. Their backs are turned. They are scared upon seeing the cucumber. They jump, they run, they do look back to discover what it is, right? And they are adult cats, right? Are the colors all the same for all the cats?
No, I think
Different, color cats.
Different coats, so different colors, right?
Yeah.
All right, so different colors. So we've seen black cats, we've seen brown cats, we've seen white cats, right? We've seen multicolored cats.
Yes.
Awesome. All right, cool. So we've made all these observations. Let's see if there's anything else we can get. Now that cat wasn't eating, right?
yes. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a dog nearby. All right, now what do we expect to happen here?
Hopping.
Yeah, Jordan said we expect that cat doesn't jump, just stay calm as normally.
Okay, that's what we expect. You were wrong. All right, cool. So let me stop sharing here. All right, awesome. Yep, they say we tried to get away, jump twice. Some people say that. They're all different colors. I'm looking in the chat. Some people say they try to protect themselves. I love that. Ready to fight, protect themselves, fear, is scared, reflex arc, right? So you talking about that hunching their back to think around. I can't really do it, but reflex arc. They hop. They're hungry. Okay. All right. Cool. All right, awesome. So now what I want to get into is the why. So we figured out the what. We've made an observation. We've looked at it. Now let's think about the why. So when we break up into our groups, I want us to, we've kind of established something. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. All right. So we have established something so far.
단단 가수 가리종어에서는 독술종어에서와 가리지요바 단단하게 그게 심의도 존재자고 내 단단 가수 독술종어로 단단 가수 가리다기인서는 가리지네 종어에 와이서 저라 지시를 진짜 가리지네서 대다기인스.
What we've established is that they are domesticated house cats who are scared of the cucumbers.
단가수 가리 단단가수 다든로 계속 가르치고서나 지금 침라 연육이 심의되와 아니 cucumber 통스타발라에 셰나 강타 종래서 단가수 단다 통요레스.
So we have a what?
단가수 단다 여디 가리세 또 what 세트로 가리세 티요레스라디.
Now let's talk about the why.
단단가수기 진짜 가리치는 지출세 대다기인스.
All right, so we'll break off into groups to discuss the why.
I
have one why so far. Somebody said that they might assume that it's a snake.
And the cucumbers or the doji injuries, some injuries to chas.
All right, hold on. I think I have a raised hand. Okay, no, that's from earlier. All right. So let's break apart and I see one raised hand. Is there a raised hand there?
Lobson grown. Okay, grown. So Labaya Chayo Esa. She's on. Maybe no.
Okay, cool. So let's break off into groups and let's think about the why, right? And let's try to be as creative as possible.
Some creative
all right, go for it. Let's talk about the why. And I only want the groups for, let's say, all right, awesome. It looks like almost everybody's back. Let's hear from some groups. Let's hear from, I want to say room 1, but I don't know if you know which rooms you all were in. So let's just hear from some people. Let's talk about or explore the why. Why do we believe that they respond in that way to the cucumbers?
Shimite ni kirate la sogro cucumber de kirate la ya shienu ge jinsen karichin re sa te kolane samsu sonro che sa tanda to the norwa.
Tani ngado shishan tesarang ngado ruka tangpo cha desha. Ngado taki doina la karichin solana tati karichin la desambala ani kota dostani korang kita chine ta khala sa ringka la korang relative kalan jela yanche korang gyabla dini shate samla korang la nyanka yoyaki ani ngobo dochi tong ne sozo kita anda sunjab ki tondala ando chambare la dini dochi ta sozo ki nyanka yoyaki ngobo ji tong ne la ta genjen dochi dini dochi ta dini dochong sa dini chi.
What they discuss is like a kind of what do you call, like a danger. When the cats are eating, they're just calm and eating the meal, but when they saw something, they felt it's a danger, and then like to run away to protect themselves.
Okay, so they recognize that there's some type of danger, right? Okay, so they think it's danger, they're eating a meal, they run away to protect themselves, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the question would be, why do they perceive the cucumber as danger? Or dangerous?
다 년가 세대 남조 데라다 소소가 된라 다 남조 키는 토모니 뭐지 아니 신의 소소가 디모니 뭐지 도스 된라 여디 삼발라 당어서 미인바이나 다 지바라타 도도도지 된라 사대는 원에 토르기 이메 가리메 신나들레 아니스다 시다 셈질라타 지바도 신지레 다 니네 남조 다 주이다 딘저릭티 남조 다스 아니 신나도지게 뭐보이다 다 티다야 소다 지바 야지 그런 다 주이게 소다 서로다 야지 리무도지요라 다디야 어디터네 인시파레사 디니도스다 긴젠니도지
One thing is like one we are like one the things unfamiliar to us or for the cat is kind of taken as a dangerous stuff, a danger. Or the other thing is if we mistaken that as a snake or that you have mentioned, then it's a source of danger. So that those two can be the reasons.
Okay, so we believe that it's something unfamiliar, right? And they may mistake it for something dangerous, like a snake. Okay, awesome. All right, cool. So we have the snake is brought up again. All right, so is there anybody else who says something different from a snake? Any groups that says something different from a possible snake?
Oh, yes.
Ngajudi group niba ima.
Oh, laso.
Ane ngajudi na ane rudu daw da samchu daw danda dina tes mitu bangi daw chichung so. Tangbodi kare resu ena ta tangbo koran simi koran de pa khala de la chik sem hajangi ane te yong tu ta shamba chik thokya ko tema thaw du ta khola shamba chi jala shamba chi thon du chik koran yang chik semla tanang chik yawa res la ne chik jung so ane nibade ane chidang ta tangbone ane palje kukumba di translate di la yo samare te chisu koran pain na chu thon yong tu ta di ngobo sanye daw chi chagoro ngobo sanye de kola thon tu ta di ngobo sanye de kare daw chi imba koran tata jik ane lega tata du chema thula lo kare kono la no ba ke gan daw chi mena samne kono ya chi tanang daw chi ke tang je ne ya chi de sem de jimi chumya daw chi mena tende daw tu tu ni ne jo so la.
So the first thing they have discussed is the reason why is because kind of first the cats are enjoying the meal in a peaceful manner, and once they see something different, they just get afraid. And then the second one is the cucumber is initially not there, so it's a kind of a new thing there. They discover something, and then they consider that as kind of danger, and they jump to protect themselves. It's kind of discover new thing that was not initially there.
I like that. Okay, so something new that wasn't initially there.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. So, two things as we look at this overall. The first, let's explore the snake thing for 1 second.
Now, that tambotelanga suge chigeta drill tree say chigoro atela chitagiens.
Is a cucumber about the size of a snake?
Kirate tanda drugi chechong tanda ore does.
No.
Is the cucumber the same color of a snake?
Kirate drita chanta chipare desa.
Kashi dui jangko yora again.
Maybe they are green snakes, similar color to the cucumber.
So maybe, right? All right. So you said maybe there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we said maybe it's, okay, it's not the same size, right? But maybe the color is the same, right?
Yes.
Is the shape the same?
A little bit, right? Not totally, but it's a little bit.
So not totally, but it's a little bit, right? And I saw somebody go like this, right? Yeah. So not totally, but a little bit. Okay, cool. So when I see observations like these, I often think, all right, cool. Well, what if I changed the shape? What if it was a green ball? that we place behind the cats, right? Let's say they're eating and we place a green ball behind them. Would they respond in the same way?
Tanda de la ngaso go zota ta de shi jagora de tanda wore system bala ta druga yuva te baina ko ta chiba chimsa mare na tis ta daudus ta tanda de kapsa ngaso go de la toxi chi kapsa shenda chi ngaso karta baina ke tiswa ani tanda gi kirati ge sabla ya bolu jangku chi sha baina ani shimiti ge ko yalan tanda de ta chiba chi te gre te mare se de ta yobes
Take Maris. Session.
I said maybe if the cat's unfamiliar. Okay. And somebody said it may be a big rat, but does a cucumber look anything like a big rat?
Kerate tisi do desa. Tisi chambu shoshi desa.
I don't know about y'all. I haven't seen the big green rat. My bad.
Chesu kana ya hago maso se gela imbaina tisi janku tine chambu thoma nyonsa.
All right. And the other thing that comes up, right, is somebody said that it's something that wasn't there initially. So it's something new.
Kashi chikita da de deja so ata ngoma ngonchi mechuchi tampo mechuchi rwa istamba de saba yochuchi se de deja so.
And by that explanation, I can almost put anything behind the cat and it's going to be afraid and run away.
Ta tanda ge deja ta te jeba imbaina ni shimi ge jalo la ya chala gari chi shaba imbaina ya wa tampo mechuchi so goroda chi shaba ina shimi te ko tela tende ta yan ko sena chi choncha ja chi chagu yorwas.
So right? So as we look at this situation, it's a very funny situation. It's not a serious situation. But as we look at the situation, it does bring about the question of why.
Tanda nga so ne tan de ta bai ba ne ta chi ko yan sem bu chi re si na ko chi ya bu kal so ta ko ke che she rong wa so ta ko ne ta ko ji ko so de ne maris imba ina ya nga so ne tan de la to chi kap so nga so la ya kari chi ni se chi chi se to de ngu yo res.
And it gives us something we can test.
Ta de la tan de nga so kari ko ke te gor so nga so takshe chi chi thya go ko ke te go res.
So group 5 said they want to see the response with the potato.
Nga ka chi son se na ke te jablo la ya nga so ke shoko chi sha pa na ko ya len te take dum de tai tagi in la sons.
I do too. So let's talk a little bit about why we're using it. So we are using this as an example, right? But there's a much bigger thing at stake here.
Da nga su pitun chi la pichu sha yores. Pitun chi sha yores, pitun di pichu tan yores, imba nan de la nga su chi jun senti ha chang chenbu chi yores.
All right. So I know these are already, I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. So what we're doing, or what we're starting off here, is the scientific method. Of which I know you're all very familiar. So what do we do so far? So far, we've observed. Some people started to come up with the hypothesis. Right? An educated guess as to why we're observing what we're observing. You've also, some group, or at least group 5, came up with an experiment. But as we do this, and I know we're about to go into a small exercise really quick, but as we come up with our experiment, I want to challenge you to come up with great experiments. So before I release you to go into your experiments, I want to go over what makes a well-designed experiment.
That Manungolaya, and it's a dread current system, Balaya, and it Kuranga Kurum Dembi, Tapsegi Changochi, Chayalaya, and you go Chachin Karikari Sanguris, Karichikitina Chava Zugaris, Tapsiapuchi Zugaris.
Because discovery and creation lies right there in the observation, the hypothesis, and the coming up with a proper experiment.
Tatanga to the Sernia Tang certain search or a Sernia Tang certainty, and it Hamadilla Rale, Karirale in a Tambote Toxicity, the Latinate, and it's good Soshatisha, Sosha Telaya, and it Taxi Chungo Segura, Taxi Chungo Yapuchi Yumbaina, then I to Sernia Tang certain set young grace.
All right. So another thing we'll do, right? As if we come up with a great experiment, then we'll have a lot of data to collect.
That I get the children of say Apuchi by night, Latin data to Mambuchi, the Richera grace.
And hopefully we can come up with a good conclusion.
That rewind by night, Latin data Solaya, and it's a Tamaga Tadon, Apuchi is.
And finally, we'll retest over and just to make sure everything that we came up with is good.
That Tamatala also Karichigores, Yangche, Toshe Yangche Chiguyo, Toshe Yangche Chideti, and then also Chiju de Tata de Yume at the Taguyores.
All right, so these are the steps of the scientific method.
That thing also with Sarik Tablan on your piggy and a Kurum top the database.
And now let's dive into the things that need to go into a good experiment.
That Andangazo Toshe Yapuchi Dealaya, Karibu, but the Tatagians.
All right. So, now, here's what I want you to do. When we break off, we're going to break off one more time into small groups. And I want you to create a question.
Come up with
the hypothesis. And then propose a good experiment. In your experiment, I want you to have these things. One,
variable, yes, individual variable, and individual variable, control, yes, control variable to be kept.
Yeah, the first thing you'll have is an independent variable, which is one factor that's changed.
Independence to meet around and Jutanti and Juchisina. Pigalana, and co exchange your Pakanshila, Jota, there is.
So great experiments, we're not changing a ton of stuff. In a well-designed experiment, you keep a lot of things very constant or the same, and you change one thing.
That of say I watching by now, so Nangi Gent, Mampuchin, Yampton Jordan Tinani Keti, Yawachongona, Tin on his chance segurata, and Jutan Segura, and she said, Tig is Genti, Jordan Grace.
And you test the results of that change.
Then Joratan at the Latin date, Tamalaya, Trimdila, and Jorakarichon Tetaguris.
So, for instance, if you believe that the cats are responding that way because of the color of the cucumber,
Taketi Chorange, Samlunalaya, and a Shimitigi Yalan Tina Tegunuga Jinsenti, and the Kiratiki Chondola Tenichonare Sambaina.
Then what needs to change in the experiment?
That thing on a co Jorakaritango is.
Yeah.
Yeah, a different color.
We use a different color, right? So to the best of our ability, and we're going to get into this in just a second, to the best of our ability, we're going to keep everything else the same. right? And only change one thing, which is the color of the cucumber.
다 야수 좀 받는 거 주가리 주고를 세나로와 현대 정말 란자샤데 동다 단다게 키라티가 전도대 직분 줬던 거예요.
Awesome. Now, if we're changing the color of the cucumber, we still have this next thing, which is a dependent variable, which means there are factors that can be measured. And this is what we talk about when we said how they respond to the cucumber.
다 현대지 갈라는 거 뉴아티와 dependent variable 네 뒤치기 주장사고로 디레스타 디갈라는 거 속에 담아들라야 아니 체제가 유주스고로 다시 답시지야 유주기 아니 젠디나레스.
Now, earlier, you said that they responded by jumping, running, looking back.
단다 응엘라 가수기 다시 값이 치수가리 송송스네고 아니 존재자 송 스트레스 송스드네 양체 실묵다 송스.
Those are things that we would have to, those are observations that we make, right? But we'd have to figure out a way to measure their fear response.
다띵 아수게 다시 존재들에서 다당 아수 가르치고래서는 그게 다지 셰나 진우게 ял렌체티 간다노치테샤세 텔라양 아수 센제고요레스.
That's, we can measure either the speed in which they respond.
지나 가수 다시 밑에 트리비 값을 그 족석 가수치가 가는 트렌드데 세제요레스.
How high or how far they jump.
전체자 스탄발라야 그 도체 가수 총선이나 정랑로 총선세된 제요레스.
But we would want to figure out something that we can measure that would help us to understand how fearful they are. All right, cool. So we have one factor that we're changing. In this example, we're changing the color. Then we want to find something that we can measure, right? So we can measure their fear and understand what's happening there.
단단히 가슴에는 가수게 인주라치 땅으로 인주라 땅 딜레텐데 데테 에네 고속에 시에난 사이트에 네탄 가나도 주사테 세자고요레스.
The next thing we want to do is have a controlled variable, which means we're going to control things in the experiment and keep things constant.
현대때 갈라는 가수가 당증기 주장사지요레스. 티카르나 아니 현대게 네탄 현대 상마이마나 아니 그 특세지우가서 그 인주라 땅 란자샤고요레스.
So give me some examples of things that we would change. So the experiment is only about the cucumber. We only want to change the color of the cucumber. That's the only thing we want to change. So what are some things we would keep constant in a good experiment?
단단히 가슴에는 가수게 주라 땅에 가르던 거래 키레티가 전통의 직분지라 땅 요레스. 때문에 현대 가수게 지금 주라 마땅 와라야 자야티 가리샤고 요레스. 주라 마땅 와샤야티. Someone says food.
Okay, so we keep the food, right? What else could we keep constant?
Environment. In the chart, someone saying environment.
Environment, awesome. I can't see the chat, so thank you, Dawa. So we keep the environment the same, right? We keep the food the same. So do we want to make sure that they also stay in the same place?
요아디나네 칼라제 코리제 아니 고 시미제 샤사된 고 잡로라 샤티도 정말 주로마 동아체로 랑자.
So what else could we keep constant? We want to keep the exact same. If we're concerned only about the color, will we still use a cucumber?
Time, I think one is time. It's morning or afternoon or evening.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So if we're doing this test, we want to maybe if we're doing it, we want to keep it done in the morning, right? If we think they're responding a certain way, we want to keep it done in the morning? Absolutely. We would want to control as many things as possible. In a good experiment, there's only one independent variable, but there are many controlled variables.
And
I'll give you an example. If I have a cat who's eating, right, and I put behind them a yellow ball, am I testing the color or am I testing something else? And let me say that more clearly. Am I testing the impact of the color, or am I testing the impact of something else?
Tati kapsi mbana kugarwa takse jade jiga chontra tigi bulu sarbu sagarwa bulu sarbu shabayna tigi chontra tigi shuchente takse jiga yorwa yana yanko nitsa shenda jiga takse jiga yores.
Ila.
Both of them.
Doctor also sure. Yibdi.
남절 간진다고. 이다.
Someone say
What'd you say, that one?
shape. Someone saying color, someone saying shape. Shape the object.
Some are saying color, some are saying shape, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, if we're divided, then we're not clear. So if we're changing the shape and we're changing the color, then we're not testing the impact of the color. Then the experiment is not designed well.
Tanda de kapsa nga su gerwa zota ta khato ni chala njwa tang yo pa na tanda de nga su chama disugdo kashi khato kashi zota risukdo wa ibrisukdo wa ta dena do chi ba na nga su gen jwa mando ani tang sa so as jwa mando ani tang stambala ya nga su tigi shuchin kana do chi yo patel ta go yora stambala tanda nga su ge ani changgo chi ju ge chi takshe chi gorwa takshe ti yapu chi mares.
So I'm just going to jump in just to note the time real quick, because I think we're about 10 minutes past when we would normally go. So, I mean, and this is incredible, but just kind of maybe we can kind of tie it, but we can even, we'll revisit this tomorrow as well. So if we can come back to this and kind of do some experimental design then too.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so we won't do the experimental design, right? We won't do the activity, but I'll tie it in to epigenetics in just a second, okay? All right, so these are the things that are involved in a well-designed experiment. There are some other things. One, the control group. We want to make sure that there's one group where the independent variable, whatever that is omitted.
Tanda dita nga tsula ya ko takshe ge chango ya wo chi chi jia la ya chango ge chachin des ta shenda chi kare ore sena ya nga tsu tangzeng ge ro kho sa chi ore tangzeng ro kho de na la ya nga tsu ge ko te me gi ju tang sa de yo ma des.
Next, we want to make sure there's an experimental group where the independent variable is included.
Ta shenda de kare sena nga tsu takshe ge ro kha chi ro takshe ge ro kho de na la ya ani te me gi ju tang te sha gu yo res.
And then finally, we want to make sure we have enough replicates in order to prove whatever we're trying to prove.
Tamadela ya nga su kare chi ra to chi go patela ya ro te ne tang te la ya ni replicate system bala ko chedi chi ro chi cha go yo res ta yang che mang po chi go res chedu yang de go to go yo res.
All right. So when I think about all this stuff, I think about this. So when we talk about epigenetics, one of the things that we really dive into are things that can be inherited over a long stretch of time or from generation to generation.
Nta shenda chi nga tsu tanda gela de ta la ta wi kapsa nga tsu shenda chi samno ko ga te ka re se na nga tsu ge ta mara mampu rang la ro ra mampu rang la ya jupe chi the ge chi chechu chi ro te ta ge yes.
One example is the hormonal profile of Holocaust survivors.
Ta chi ka re se stambala ya Holocaust ta da gi tigi kapsa ta chi ko chusun thupi ku chu ga na la yu chu ge ane nga su hormone yo ra ta minzi ge chapcha chi ro o te la kana ro chi rin du te ta tres.
We know that because of environment and epigenetics, because of environment, it can have a huge impact on the offspring of people who suffer through major trauma.
Tanda de ka sanga chu lapar te rizin de la tin de te ro tanda gi chi mitsig na ne ta kar su shena nga ta tin do ge ni ta za ta pu tin de chung te la tin de te ro te gi te la tin de te su su ge da junze su gora pu gi ta ra chima te la ya shichen kana do chi te ge yo pa te nga cha ku yo res.
And noticing that children of Holocaust survivors have a similar profile to people who actually went into war makes me think about bigger questions.
다 단단히 가서 봐나 그 홀로코스트 때 살롱 전주가 보이라 로다 살롱 전주 보이 구축에다 민지가 와 때 호르몬 때게 지금 접차치고 왔대 아니 지금 먹란 돈이 요라다 지금 탑피자간 돈이게 미게 아니 그 민지게 접차당 다운로드에서 스tambalaya 니톤 딘다 중앙 스tambalaya gelakula som바이나 지금 삼도 가서 그랬다 지금 도안도 마스나 도 전부 지도하게 니톤 차가도스
It makes me think about myself.
되게 gelak 코랑콜라야 삼도 차가도스
in the impact that slavery may have had on African Americans.
다 가서 지금 대용라 녀와텔라 텐데 데르와다 지금 미리나 홀라야 시정가너지 태요 바텔라 삼코도스
It makes me think about the epigenetic changes that occurred to the slaves.
나한테 텔라텐데 tinta rizin derik jiroa terwata 지금 대용도줄라 rizin derik jiroa 카나다 우치 총요 바테타 콜라 삼코치도스
And how those epigenetic changes may be affecting my people right now.
다 테톨라텐데 동고마 테톨라텐데 데르와 되기 슈진텔라텐데 네 단다 요쪽에다 미리나 홀라야 네 슈진 카나다 우치 트레기오 바테 콜라 삼코도스
It'll take a lot of experiments to get to the. I'll go ahead.
다 단다로 전데 티나로 우치 해라야 니 치고 딱세마서나 랍탄 맘부르 부이레스
It'll take a lot of experiments. It'll take a lot of, scientific discovery in order to get to the true impact of that experience.
다 단다게 냠뇽 테라텐데 단 슈진 간다스 총샤세 테 하고야라야 아니 첸리케 지금 딱세데 랍탄 맘부르 부이레스
But in the scientific method, we have the tools to address the what, the why, the how, and the if then.
다 단다가서 첸리케 답랭나라야 아니 단다게 데이터라 렌데야기 타블렌트 요레스 비자시나 카리치니스 카리레스 단 카리치네레 쳇레스 아니 케티세 데나로치 바나 티네 데나로치 레세 요라 티니세 데이터라 렌데야기 타블렌트 요레스
All right. So I'll let the next class help you to dive into more. But that's all for me for today, y'all.
나 그 초단 지마트 값을 대강라 지지나야고 지금 sampuduagi dinero wachigi yes ra ani tirang zendate taran samshagi yes.
Wonderful, and thank you so much to definitely all our participants and Ernest. Thank you so much. That was great. We're going to definitely follow up on this tomorrow. Val, yes, you're still here too. Awesome. So just to say thank you to everyone, and we will meet again tomorrow for our last meeting to get more into scientific experiments and genetics and epigenetics.